Welcome to the Inner Whisper, your sacred pause to return to yourself. Thank you for joining me again. In the previous whisper, we talked about those emotions that get activated inside us during certain dynamics, particularly within family. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, I invite you to do so and to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future whispers. Because those emotions don't appear out of nowhere. They come from our experiences, our wounds, and the ways we learn to protect ourselves. In my work, I call that the shadow. But today, I want to talk about the next step in that process. Because one thing is recognizing that something triggers you, and something very different is what you do when it happens. If we are honest, most of us already know our triggers. We know which people push our buttons. We know which comments can shift our mood in seconds. But the real question is this: what happens in that exact moment when you feel something rising inside you? Do you defend yourself? Do you react immediately? Do you stay silent while your body boils inside? And I want to say something important. Don't blame yourself for feeling this. The activation itself is not the problem. Often, it's simply the body remembering emotional experiences that once tried to protect us. And what usually weighs on us is when we react from a place that no longer represents the person we're becoming. And that's where we enter the second step of this healing process, the reclamation. If the shadow is the moment when we begin to see the parts of ourselves that react from old wounds, reclamation is when we begin to integrate them. This is where inner alchemy begins. And let me share a simple example. Last week, I visited my family after several years without seeing them in person. At one point, we were in the garage, my father, my nephew, and me. During the conversation, my father began making negative comments about my mother. She passed away many years ago, and her struggles with alcohol have always been a sensitive wound for me. In that moment, I felt the reaction rise instantly. I wanted to react, and I did. And soon after, I realized something. That moment was exactly the kind of laboratory we are talking about. It wasn't about changing my father. It wasn't about winning the conversation. It was about noticing what had been activated in me and beginning to relate to that activation differently. That is reclamation. That is empowerment. That is taking control of your emotions. When we start seeing these moments not as conflicts, but as opportunities to recognize and integrate our shadows, that is precious. Because often the moment when something gets triggered inside of us is not the problem. On the contrary, is the place where alchemy can begin. So what do we do when a trigger appears? It's not about suppressing what you feel, and it's not about pretending nothing is happening, because it is. So reclamation begins when we learn to relate to that moment differently. And I want to share 3 pathways that can help. The first path: recognize what was activated. Simply notice. Become aware that something inside you reacted. Maybe anger, sadness, a sudden sense of defense. But instead of reacting immediately, pause and acknowledge. Something in me just got triggered. That moment of awareness already changes the experience because when you see it, you're no longer completely inside the reaction. The second pathway, create a small space before reacting. Once you recognize the activation, give yourself a moment, breathe. Notice what's happening in your body without responding right away. When we react automatically, we usually react from the wound. But when a small space appears, the emotion can exist without becoming an immediate reaction. And that's where the real inner work begins. And the third pathway, choose how you want to respond. When that space opens, something powerful becomes possible. Choice, not from impulse, not from the old story, but from the person you are becoming. Sometimes that choice is responding calmly, trying not to take it personally, or simply stepping away from the conversation. It's not about doing it perfectly, it's about responding more consciously. And every time you do that, you reclaim a part of yourself that once reacted automatically. Now, I invite you to pause with me for a moment because everything we have talked about doesn't happen only in the mind, it also happens in the body. So let's take 3 conscious breaths of light. Find a comfortable position. Gently close your eyes if you're able to, and relax your shoulders. Let's begin. Inhale slowly through your nose. And remember a recent moment when someone said something that triggered you. Just observe it for a moment. Now breathe out slowly and notice how your body responds. Second breath. Inhale again a little deeper. Imagine the breath reaching wherever in your body you felt that activation. Maybe the chest, the stomach. And as you release, allow that sensation to soften. Last breath. Inhale once more and imagine responding from awareness instead of from the wound. Exhale slowly and feel yourself returning to a calmer, more present place. Stay there for a moment. Today we explored those moments when something inside us gets activated. Moments we often see as problems, but we can see them as opportunities. Opportunities to observe what arises, to create space, and to respond with greater awareness. That is reclamation. Not eliminating our shadows, but learning to see them honestly and integrate them into our growth. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." And for today's mantra, every pause opens a new path. Every breath brings me back to myself. If this whisper resonated with you, I invite you to walk this path with me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Inner Light Path, to receive every single new episode of The Inner Whisper. Give this video a thumbs up if it brought you something today, and share it with someone who might need it. I would love to hear from you. In what situation do you notice yourself getting triggered? Leave a comment or simply a heart if you stay with me until the end. You can also read my reflections on Substack at theinnerlightpath.substack.com. I'll see you next time. Until then, love deeply, shine brightly, and embrace your journey. Ciao.